Alright, let's talk about something you probably drive past all the time without giving it a second thought: an industrial park. It sounds official, maybe a little boring, but it's where the real work gets done. Think of it as a neighborhood designed specifically for businesses that make, store, and ship stuff. Instead of houses and swing sets, you have factories, warehouses, and big trucks. The whole point is to group these hard-working companies together in one spot. This makes it easier for them to get what they need, whether it's raw materials from a train or a shared road to the main highway. It's a planned community for industry, and a well-planned one keeps things moving smoothly. So why bother building one of these things from scratch? Simple. It's about efficiency. When you put a bunch of businesses together, they can share the heavy-duty infrastructure that costs a fortune to build. We're talking about massive water pipes, high-capacity electrical grids, and, most importantly, access to things like railways and major roads. Imagine every single factory having to build its own private road to the interstate. It would be a chaotic, expensive mess. An industrial park organizes all that chaos. It's a master plan that says, okay, the noisy work goes here, the storage goes there, and here's the road everyone will use to get their products out into the world. Now, you don't just throw up a bunch of metal buildings and call it a day. A good industrial park is carefully thought out, like a giant, complicated puzzle. The goal is to create a place where everything works together seamlessly. The truck that delivers steel to the manufacturing plant shouldn't get stuck behind the garbage truck emptying the dumpster for the office building. The warehouse needs to be close to the railway line to load goods quickly. It's a delicate dance of logistics, and if one partner steps on the other's toes, the whole operation can grind to a halt. It's about making hard work a little bit easier for the folks on the ground. Ultimately, these parks are the unsung heroes of our economy. They're the places where the products you buy are born, stored, and sent on their way. From the food in your fridge to the car in your driveway, chances are some part of its journey started in a place like this. It's a hub of activity, a beehive of production that keeps the country running. So the next time you see that sign for Delper Industrial Park, you'll know it's not just a collection of boring buildings. It's a carefully designed engine of commerce, humming along day and night, getting the job done. So, you've got 450 acres of empty land, a blank canvas. Now comes the fun part, deciding where everything goes. You can't just start pouring concrete. You need a plan, a master plan that divides the space logically. The biggest slice of this pie, about 60% of it, is going to be for the main event, the industrial plots. That's about 270 acres. This is the prime real estate where companies will build their factories and workshops. It's the heart of the operation, where the actual making, assembling, and processing happens. This is where the jobs are, and it's the reason the park exists in the first place. Next up, you have to think about how everything gets in and out. This isn't magic, it's logistics, and logistics need space. We'll set aside a solid chunk, say 20% or 90 acres, for railways and logistics. This includes the land for the train tracks themselves, the loading and unloading areas, and the massive warehouses that hold goods before they're shipped out. This area is the circulatory system of the park. Without it, the factories would be clogged with products they can't move and starved of the materials they need to keep working. Underestimate this space, and you've got a big, expensive bottleneck on your hands. Of course, an industrial park isn't just about machines and cargo. People work here, and people need things. That's where amenities and green spaces come in. We'll dedicate about 10% of the land, or 45 acres, to this. This includes a small commercial area with a cafeteria or a bank, maybe some office spaces for the administrative folks who keep the lights on. It also includes green belts, little patches of nature, and maybe a small park. It might sound soft, but it breaks up the monotony of concrete and steel, helps manage water runoff, and gives people a decent place to eat their lunch. Happy workers are productive workers. Finally, you have the skeleton that holds it all together, the infrastructure. The remaining 10%, or 45 acres, is for the boring but essential stuff. We're talking about roads, parking lots, utility corridors for water and power lines, and stormwater management systems. These things are the foundation of the entire park. The roads need to be wide enough for two massive trucks to pass each other without sucking in their guts. You need enough parking for every employee and visitor. Skimp on this, and you'll have constant traffic jams and logistical nightmares. It's the plumbing of the park. You don't notice it when it's working, but you sure notice it when it's not. An industrial park is a bit like a hardware store. You have all sorts of different tools for different jobs. The companies that move in are just as varied. You'll get your heavy hitters, the big manufacturing plants. These guys might be making auto parts, fabricating steel beams, or producing construction materials. Then you've got businesses focused on what's called light industry. Think of companies that assemble electronics, package food products, or print materials. They're less about smokestacks and more about clean, efficient assembly lines. The goal is to attract a mix of businesses that can support each other. To accommodate this variety, you can't have a one-size-fits-all approach to the land. You need to divide those 270 acres of industrial plots into different sizes. We'll create a range of options. On the high end, you'll have a few massive plots, maybe 50 acres each. These are for the giants, the big multinational corporations that need a ton of space for a massive factory, extensive storage yards, and a fleet of trucks. A major automotive supplier or a national food distribution company would be a perfect fit for a plot this size. They bring a lot of jobs and a lot of activity to the park. In the middle, you'll have a good number of medium-sized plots, let's say between 10 and 20 acres. These are the workhorses of the industrial park. They're perfect for regional manufacturers, logistics companies that handle shipping for several smaller businesses, or a company that specializes in building prefabricated components. These businesses are big enough to be stable but nimble enough to adapt. They form the solid, reliable core of the park's economy, providing steady employment and consistent traffic for the logistics hub. A healthy park needs a lot of these medium-sized players. And finally, you have the small plots, anywhere from 2 to 5 acres. These are for the smaller, more specialized businesses. Think of a local machine shop, a custom cabinet maker, or a recycling and waste management facility that serves the other companies in the park. These businesses are vital. They fill the niches, provide essential services, and often grow into the medium-sized businesses of tomorrow. By offering a variety of plot sizes, you create a dynamic and resilient industrial ecosystem where businesses of all shapes and sizes can find a home and thrive. It's about creating opportunities for everyone, from the big dog to the little guy. Now let's get down to the nitty-gritty, the railways. We've set aside 90 acres for logistics, and a huge part of that is for the railway sidings. A siding is basically a parking lane for a train, a short track off the main line where cars can be loaded and unloaded. We're planning for 12 of them. On paper, a single siding for a few rail cars doesn't seem like it needs much space. But here's where folks get into trouble. You're not just planning for the track itself. You have to think about the whole operation, and that takes up a surprising amount of room. The first thing to consider is the length. A standard freight train can be over a mile long, made up of dozens of cars. Your 12 sidings need to be long enough to hold all the cars you expect to handle at once, plus a little extra. Then there's the space between the tracks. You need enough room for forklifts, small cranes, and other equipment to move freely between the parked trains without bumping into each other. You also need clearance for the workers who are on the ground, coupling cars and inspecting shipments. Squeezing the tracks together to save a few feet is a recipe for accidents and inefficiency. But the real space hog isn't the tracks. It's everything around them. You need massive laydown areas. This is the open ground right next to the sidings where you temporarily stack containers, pallets of goods, and raw materials before they're loaded onto the train or moved to a warehouse. Think of it as a staging area. If this space is too small, you create a logjam. Trucks bringing in goods will have nowhere to unload, and the whole process slows to a crawl. Proper planning means allocating a generous buffer zone around every single siding just for this purpose. So when we say 12 railway sidings, we're really talking about a complex system that includes the tracks, the access lanes for machinery, the safety zones for workers, and the huge laydown areas for cargo. This is why our 90-acre allocation for logistics is so critical. It might seem like a lot, but it's what's needed to prevent a permanent traffic jam of steel and cargo. Good planning isn't just about drawing lines on a map, it's about understanding how the work actually gets done. By giving the railway operations the space they truly need, we ensure the entire 450-acre park can run like a well-oiled machine for decades to come. That's how Delper Industrial Park at Wadi, Kaburgi district, Karnataka, India, is built to last for several decades.